Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 2, Sermons in Cars. I'm your host, Tony. I'm gonna get the ball rolling today. Talk about this seemingly overwhelming concept, the fear of the Lord. When I close my eyes and I think about the fear of the Lord, an image comes to mind. And it's an image of shadow. But it's not this like scary shadow. It's not the Lord of the Rings shadow. Gandalf has fallen into shadow. It's not that. For me, it's this awareness of a presence that is completely and totally other, one that is right here next to me. And that image was formed at a young age. I was probably 7 or 8, and my parents were having a Bible study, and I asked the leader of the Bible study if he could explain to me the fear of the Lord. And I don't remember everything he said, but he directed all of his attention towards me, and what I recall was more of an imparting of this spiritual reality, that God is truly extraterrestrial in the truest sense of the word, meaning out of terrestrial, this world. But he's not far removed. He's right here, always with you. And that awareness brings with it a holy reverence, which is this fear of the Lord. And so it will, and that's always been conceptually how I've approached it. But it will always and only stay concept form until you really begin to put flesh to it and really give it definition. Which is where our launchpad today is Psalm 111 and 112. Which, if you could read one thing for the next 2 months, I would say read that. Because it is, you could read it over and over, chew on it, read it, chew it, read it, and it's going to cultivate inside of you a praxis, a way of living, which is really what the fear of the Lord is at its most basic form. So let's get right into chapter 111. Poet opens by saying, I praise the Lord, I extol the Lord with all my heart in the council of the upright and in the assembly. So right off the bat, the poet, he or she, they situate themselves around a specific group of people, which is important. And these are the upright. Then the poet goes on to say, great are the works of the Lord, pondered by all who delight in him. And then by pondering, goes on to describe all of the reasons, all of the good things, these works that God does, and how God's works have been enacted in faithfulness, and this God's righteousness endures forever, that he provides food for those who fear him. He's the one that remembers his covenant with us. He's the one who has delivered other lands into his people's hands, and he's the one whose name is holy and awesome. And then the writer culminates by saying, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I've heard that line 1,000 times, and I swear, I am none the wiser for it. It's like, those are like some spiritual words right there. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I go, wait, how do you even quantify the beginning of wisdom? It's like metaphysical. It's like water, trying to hold water in your hands. Like, that's how I see the beginning of wisdom. But it will only stay like that unless we take into account that second line, which is, all who follow his precepts have good understanding. Which really is a continuation, a furthering of the first line. You know, if the first part is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, that is to say, all who follow his precepts have good understanding. Good understanding being the beginning of wisdom, following the precepts of God, cultivates the fear of the Lord. Because you can't have one without the other. Which is why the writer dedicates the first part of the poem to the works of God. Because we need to know of a God who's not far removed. We need to know of a God who moves in and among us. And we need to hear of the great things that this God has done. So that these are the things we can root our foundation upon. So that when dark times come, We don't have to be afraid. We can stand firm and increase our faith in these moments. And this is the part that's really hard for us. It's that our faith demands action. So if we want to be cultivating the fear of the Lord, if we want this thing that's the beginning of wisdom, which, by the way, if you possess the beginning of wisdom, you are like, it's like God gives you like the keys to the world. Like you have the blessings, the promises that come with it are innumerable, which we'll get into next week. But you got to root yourself in this concept of following the precepts of God. Now, following the precepts of God is not so much about behavior modification 101 as much as it is about understanding really what it means to root yourself in the counsel of the upright. Now, the counsel of the upright has a lot more to do with people who are socially aware of cultural sin, more so than the individual sin. Now, they're both important, but at the end of the day, God's going to be a bit more concerned about one than he is the other. So how you flesh out your faith in action is going to look different. It doesn't have to look like what one person says or does. Okay? One person may be like, well, I stood on the corner, I preached the gospel to 74 people yesterday, and 2 of them raised their hands. Well, that's nice. But that doesn't have to be you. Your faith can look different from the preacher's, and we should celebrate that. So what is your faith doing right now? And how is it in motion? How is it in movement? Because if it's not in movement, your faith drifts towards idleness, it risks becoming idolatrous. Okay, I want to say that again because you can tweet that. If your faith drifts into idleness, it risks becoming idolatrous. Christians have a hard time kind of wrapping their minds around this concept, but the truth is, the Bible is not the fourth person of the Trinity. Okay, we can't just be like, well, I've got the Bible as the final authoritative word of God. And because I possess this, I have the keys to the kingdom. Oh, pardon my cynicism. But hopefully you understand, because the same issue was addressed in the first century when Jesus said to his constituents, don't think that you got Abraham or Moses or the law to fall back on to save you from this. He addressed it then, he's saying it now. Just because you have the Bible, don't think it's going to get you out of this. Because what he's saying is your faith is in your own hands, and how you live it is what matters most. So how are you living your faith today? And I'll leave us with this final thought, which will be our launch pad for next week. It's because when you begin to cultivate the fear of the Lord, it unleashes blessing and promise in your life. And one of the fundamental, primary, most powerful blessings it comes with is this: that when you fear the Lord, you have no reason to ever fear again. And if that doesn't send chills down your spine, nothing will. So may you this week begin to cultivate an understanding and awareness that God is with you, he is among you, he is near you. And he's asking you gently, what are you doing with your faith? Because know that he wants to cultivate inside of you a richness, a heritage, a legacy of blessing. And he wants to give you the power to never fear again. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. This was episode 2. We'll see you next week. I'm your host, Tony. I'm out.